Jayaratha Matavam Kunja Bihari Jayaratha Matavam Kunja Bihari Jayaratha Matavam Kunja Bihari Jayaratha Matavam Jabihari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrachachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrachachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrachachana Ranjana Shodanandana Vrachachana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jayaratha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayaratha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayaratha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Shri Shri Prahlad Nrsimhadev Bhagavan ki, Shri Shri Radha Madhava ki, Shri Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanande. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Namobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhyevacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, Hare Krishna. Welcome back. So we are in Madhurya Kadambini. This is our fourth session, right? Yes, and we are at stage 4 with Anartha Nivriti. And we spoke last session about Bhajana Kriya, which is the beginning of devotional service, being engaged. We accept the spiritual master. Spiritual master is engaging us in service, and we are trying to perform devotional service. But then that bhajan is unsteady. We spoke about Anishita Bhajana Kriya, that we're doing our best, but then sometimes we are unsteady in our performance of bhakti. And then there is also, the more we advance or the more we get purified, of course we become more fixed. But the stage of nishta, which means to be fixed, only occurs once the heart is enough purified. And once the heart is more purified, then we become more fixed. So in that stage in between, the stage in between Anishtita Bhajan Kriya and the stage Nishta, where we actually become fixed, the stage in between is called Anartha Nivritti, in which the heart becomes cleansed or purified from anarthas. So here we have an overview again of the stages, Shraddha, Sadhusanga, Bhajana, Kriya. And then today we speak about Anartha Nivritti. Nishta, Ruchi and Ashakti will be tomorrow, and the last day we talk about Bhava and Prema. So Anartha Nivritti is the clearing of unwanted things, the Anarthas. This stage overlaps many of the higher stages. We will hear about that. I mean, in some way all the stages overlap, but basically it means it's not that at the end of Anartha Nivritti we are completely purified from all Anarthas, but it means a good amount of Anarthas is removed. And then some Anarthas still linger around longer, and we will talk about that. So we mentioned about this also last time, the Sanskrit word Anartha. It's made of two parts, an or a, it's not, or opposite of artha. And the word artha we know, it means wealth, or also value, goal. So anartha means that which has no value or real purpose. And it refers to the unwanted qualities or habits in the heart, like lust, greed, and so on. And the Sanskrit word Nivriti means turning away or withdrawal, and so Anartha Nivritti means the removal of the unwanted things from the heart. Now, Srila Vishnuvardhana Thakur, and we will mainly refer to the Madhurya Kadambini in this session because there's quite a lot in that chapter. So we mainly refer directly from the book. But before we start, and then Srila Vishnuvardhana Thakur speaks mainly of the different, how is Anarthas are manifesting, what are the sources of the Anarthas, and he has 4 categories. But before we go into that, I felt it's maybe also good to just talk a little bit about what do we mean with Anartha, unwanted things in the heart. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives an interesting list of 4 kind of Anarthas, which gives us some idea of what we mean when we talk about Anartha. So the 4 types of Anartha, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we have here Hridaya Dharbalya, which means the weakness of the heart. So that's attachments to objects that have no connection with Krishna. If you're attached to things which are not really connected, then the tendency to cheat and find fault, kutinati, fault-finding mentality, that's an anartha. It's unwanted. Of course, matsarya, envy, is unwanted, and pratishta, the desire for prestige. So these are some of the anarthas, the weaknesses of the heart. And by the way, I was asked, maybe I can make a handout or something, PDF with some of these slides. Yeah. I mean, maybe not the whole PowerPoint, but just some of the important things I can share with you. So attachments, fault-finding, envy, and desire for prestige. So these are some of the anarthas, which are categorized as weaknesses of the heart. Then 2 is aparada, offenses. There's different offenses. Offenses against the holy name, offenses against the form of the Lord, seva aparad. Offenses against the devotees, Vaishnava aparad, and also any other living entity, jiva aparad. So basically the mentality to commit aparats, these are also anarthas in the heart when we have this mentality. Then asat trishna, the thirst for asat, that which is not real. No? Trishna means thirst, and of course asat means unreal or untruth or not eternal. So material, that's basically desires for pleasure of sense enjoyments, like some sense gratification in this world. Then desire for svargalok, some happiness in svargalok. Desire for some siddhis, mystical powers, and mukti, desire for liberation. These are different kind of desires in the heart. Of course, because we feel that we are disconnected to Krishna, and somehow we want to compensate, and then try to compensate the empty we feel in the heart through some of these kind of fulfillment of these desires. But these are also anarthas. Then we have tattva vibrama, that means illusions about spiritual knowledge. So ignorance of one's own self, if I don't know I'm a spiritual soul. Ignorance of the position of the Supreme Lord, if I'm not aware of who is Krishna, what is the position of God. Ignorance of the process of sadhana bhakti, prema bhakti. Like I'm not understanding what is the process, how to reach the Lord. And then also ignorance of the factors that hinder the development of Krishna consciousness, which is interesting. That's kind of what we are talking now. The whole Madhurya Kadambini speaks a lot about what are the obstacles, how to progress. So if we don't know about these things, then that's also a form of vibrama or illusion, and in that way also something which is an anartha or an unwanted factor which is there in the heart. Yeah. So that gives us some idea what is an anartha. And of course, sometimes we speak of kama, krodha, lobha, mada, matsarya, mada, moha, which are described as the ripus, or the enemies of the heart, 6 enemies. And of course, these are also anarthas, unwanted. These are qualities, or destructive qualities, or in the heart, which are also unwanted in that sense. Okay, so that's just an overview of, so that we have a better understanding what we mean with anarthas. And of course, these are all aspects that blocks us or hinder us to actually make progress in spiritual life. And as long as these are there in the heart, we will not be able to become fixed, and so we can't reach nishta, and we can't make further progress. And of course, the whole process of sadhana bhakti means cetodarpana marjanam, the cleansing of the heart, and that's what this stage is all about, the Nivriti, the removal of these anarthas. Now, Srila Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur describes the anartha from a different angle. He speaks of the origin of anarthas, or where do one's anarthas come from? And he says they're coming from sinful activities, pious activities, from offenses, and from bhakti successfully performed. Which is interesting. So these are 4 causes of anarthas manifesting in the heart. So, and please bear with me, it will be a little bit technical today, because a lot of theory in that section. We'll try to, but I hope it nevertheless will be interesting and hopefully helpful as well. So I think when we hear this, anarthas through sinful activities, that's kind of understandable, but how is pious activities and even from bhakti? So let's see what description we find here. So the first, good and bad, pious and impious activities both can bring up some anarthas. The first is dushkritota anartha, which means anarthas arise from sinful activities. So these are reactions and habits formed by papa, sins, like addictions, harmful tendencies, and so on. So in the Madhurya Kadambini it says, anarthas arising from past sin fall in the category of the 5 types of klesha, which are ignorance, false ego, attachment, hatred, and fear of death. Okay, so from these, anarthas come in the category of sinful activity. And yeah, of course, if we are influenced by the mode of passion and ignorance, and we act in a way against Scripture, it means we just increase more bad qualities. That's kind of understandable. And sukrito, anartha, sukrit means pious, or uta means arising from. So anarthas that arise from pious activities. Even good deeds can bring obstacles. Attachment to a material enjoyment, pride from charity or knowledge, desire for heaven or liberation. No? So anarthas arising from pious work are the desire for enjoyments that arise from pious action and the desire for liberation. So these are anarthas that can come from, even if you are very sattvic and we act piously, but then we can fall into the trap of developing some more anarthas because we want to enjoy more of these facilities. There is not much more description on this, but then there is quite a lengthy discussion on offenses, anarthas committed, which arise from aparad. And when we look at offenses, as we already mentioned before, different kinds of offenses: holy name, while performing seva, while visiting the Dham, interacting with Vaishnavas or with other jivas. And in Madhurya Kadambini, two of the offenses are highlighted, namely offenses against the holy name and offenses against the devotees, Vaishnavas. These are given most attention in the book. Anarthas that arise from aparat refers to those due to nam aparat, but not seva aparat. And then he gives an example, like you maybe remember in the Nectar of Devotion, there is several lists of aparats one commits in relation to the altar or the murti. Yeah? Do you remember some of these? What are some? Some are quite funny also. But what are some of the anarthas? Yes. With one hand, not to bow down with one hand. One should place both hands on the floor. Yeah. Yes. Not showing the feet where the deity holy needs. I remember passing air, or chastising someone very heavily. Not touching the deity in the dark. Yes. Vishnu Chakrata gives the example of entering the temple in a palanquin. I mean, that's not. We are not often riding in a palanquin, right? Or entering the temple with shoes. No, that we shouldn't do that. No, we remove our shoes before. But here it says anarthas arise from Nam Aparat and Vaishnava Aparat and not from Seva Aparat. Why? Because this Seva Aparat, through the process of bhakti, can very easily be overcome. Now, the process of bhakti is quite powerful. I mean, it's very powerful. And even if we perform devotional service and we do some mistake, just by the performance of bhakti itself, these offenses will be removed. The acharyas have discerned that seva apparats are usually ineffective, being nullified by the chanting the name, by reciting of stotras having the power to cancel their effects, and by constant service. So although we may commit some apparats during service, they will be counteracted by all the other practices. Constant engagement in these activities practically nips in the bud the effect of seva apparat. If one is careless, however, and takes advantage of being protected by the effects of seva apparat by these means, his seva apparat becomes nam apparat. The nam apparat of committing sinful acts on the strength of the holy name, right? So, but yeah, the focus is on Vaishnava apparat and on Nam apparat. And of course, when we look at the 10 offenses against the holy name, yeah, there is 10 of them. And Vishnavacharya Thakur gives focus on 3. Namely, to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name. And 2, consider the names of the demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. And 3 and 4. Basically 3 was also included with 1. And then 4, the blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. So these 3 or 4 are highlighted in the Madhurya Kadambini. And the first one being blaspheming the devotees. Vaishnava apparat. How are Vaishnava apparat being described? As a hatimata, a mad elephant. An elephant is quite a powerful animal, very strong. But if an elephant becomes mad for some reason, it's very difficult to control. And the example is given. We can read. Yadi Vaishnava apparat ute hati mata upadevya chindetara sukiyaya patta. Hati mata. If the devotee commits an offense at the feet of a Vaishnava while cultivating the creeper of devotional service in the material world, his offense is compared to a mad elephant that uproots the creeper and breaks it. In this way, the leaves of the creeper are dried up. That's from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, aparat to Vaishnavas are very serious offense. And what are some of the ways you can offend a Vaishnava? The Skanda Purana describes 6 of them. Anyone remembers? Yes, one who kills a Vaishnava. This is kind of, so don't kill a Brahmana, don't kill the Vaishnavas. So that's a great offense, of course, yes. Yes, that's amazing. If one does not feel happy to see a Vaishnava. So let's go through them one by one. One who blasphemes a Vaishnava, like that's a classical, just to speak bad about a person. One who envies a Vaishnava, if you have envy towards a Vaishnava, that's an aparat. One who fails to offer obeisances to a Vaishnava upon seeing them. So if you see a devotee, you should always offer obeisances. And you may say, well, that's not practical. We don't do that every time. At least in your mind, offer obeisances. Whenever you see devotees, you always Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. No, it's not that we're just ignoring each other, but we always acknowledge, here is a Vaishnava. So at least mentally. If we don't do that, it's an aparat. One who becomes angry with a Vaishnava, showing anger to a Vaishnava. And then, as Damodar Priya Mataji mentioned, one who does not become joyful upon seeing a Vaishnava. And that's a serious one, because sometimes, especially live in an ashram with so many devotees, so many Vaishnavas, and sometimes we don't like someone so much. And then, we go to a program somewhere, oh no, she's also here. Oh no, that Prabhu also has come. So we're not happy to see that person. According to Skanda Purana, this is a Vaishnava aparat. Once I had, in the temple in Zurich, it's many years back, there was one devotee, he was a kind of a senior devotee, and somehow I was not so happy with the way, and so I didn't like him. And then when I always tried to avoid him. And then one day, I was in the city of Zurich, just doing some shopping or something. And then I saw that devotee on the other side of the street, When I saw him, I thought, Haribol! I greeted him like this, Haribol, there's a devotee. I felt like there's a devotee. And then while I sang Haribol, I was asking myself, why I'm so happy to see him. I don't like that person. But, being surrounded by non-devotees and seeing amidst all these people, seeing a devotee, I immediately felt, oh, Haribol, a devotee, And only then I realized it's actually the devotees I don't like. But this shows that, for Vaishnavas, we should always have, even if we can't be friends with everyone, that's clear, we can't be. But a general appreciation, a general respect and for every Vaishnava should be there. And if you don't cultivate that honor and respect for all the Vaishnavas, then there is always a danger that we commit aparad, right? And what are the consequences of aparad? We know in Bhagavatam we have the story of Daksha and Shiva. We all know the story how Daksha entered the arena and everyone got up, everyone showed respect to him. But Lord Shiva didn't stood up, and Daksha took it as a great offense because he was the father-in-law and he felt Shiva, son-in-law should show respect. As we know, Shiva actually was in Samadhi. He was just absorbed in thoughts of the Lord, and in that sense he was giving respect to the Lord and to Paramatma in all the hearts of everyone. But Daksha couldn't realize the exalted position of Shiva. He became very angry and then openly he blasphemed Shiva very, very severely. And Bhagavatam describes, basically, this is Lord Shiva, the personality he actually is, and this is how Daksha saw him. Like this, he's, I have such a wonderful daughter, and I gave this daughter in marriage to this low-class person. Look at this Shiva, he's always, he doesn't follow any Vedic principle or etiquette. He's always impure. He's asuchi. He's always smeared with ashes from the crematory ground. He has snakes and scorpions on his body, and he is always associating with ghosts and goblins and rakshasas and demons. And so what is that personality? So he very heavily, chastises or blasphemes Lord Shiva. And of course, later in the story, Sati, she chastises her father and she says, twice-born Daksha, a man like you can simply find fault in the qualities of others. Lord Shiva, however, not only finds no faults with others' qualities, but if someone has a little good quality, he magnifies it greatly. Unfortunately, you have found fault with such a great soul. So there is sadhu and there is asadu. Sadhu always sees good, and he always encourages good in everyone. And asadu is just the opposite. Asadus always see bad. Even if there is no bad, he sees bad. And Shiva, who is completely free from any fault, Daksha only saw fault. That's why we said this kutinati, or this fault-finding mentality, is also an anartha, and is often like pride and envy, and this fault-finding often leads to then Vaishnava aparad. And of course, in the story of Shiva and Daksha ended up with losing his head and getting a goat head at the end. So therefore, we are reminded with this pastime, either we can be a honeybee collecting the nectar and seeing the good, or we can be a fly who's only going to the dirty places, right? So how to counteract a Vaishnava aparad? Jiva Goswami says in the Bhakti Sandarbha, in order to free from offenses unto great souls, one should place that same personality whom one originally offended through constant engaging in the process of bhakti. Should please that same person. Offenses to great devotees may be relieved either by experience the calamities they bring, or by attaining the favor of the offended devotee. So one should go to the same person, and then one should ask for forgiveness, and also should get their favor. One should try to please them. And this is the same what Vishnavacharya Thakur says in Madhurya Kadambini. He says, Sadhu Ninda, or criticism of Vaishnavas, is the first of the 10 offenses against the holy name. If by chance this offense occurs, the person should repent. Oh, I'm such a low-class person. I have made an offense to a saintly person. And then it says, a person burned by fire seeks relief in fire. If you burn yourself by fire, you should find relief in fire. What does it mean? Ayurveda says that to treat burns with ointments that cause heat. That's like there's some Ayurvedic ointment. When you burn yourself, you put that ointment, and in the first moment it feels like more heat. So that's why. So by this logic, he should nullify his offenses by lamenting, falling at the feet of the Vaishnava, the same Vaishnava he has offended, and satisfying him by offering him obeisances, praise, and respect. So we have to go back to that same person. If the Vaishnava is still unsatisfied, the person should render favorable service to him according to the desire for many days. So one should try to satisfy, or make that person satisfied. Sometimes this question comes up. So, okay, let's say I do an aparat and then I ask for apology and I try to serve, and the person is just not forgiving me. What to do then? Of course, Vaishnavas are usually very compassionate and very. They learn, they forgive. But sometimes we don't get a chance to see either the Vaishnava himself has some not able to forgive, or sometimes we may not be able to approach that Vaishnava, or maybe the Vaishnava already died, or we're not able to express. So then what to do? And this is an interesting answer he given. In extreme remorse, the aparadi, think himself most unfortunate and bound for millions of years in hell for his offense, should give up everything and take full shelter of constant Nam Sankirtan. In time, the divine power of Nam Kirtan will certainly deliver that person from this offense. It's an interesting answer. No? If you're not able to please the person you offended, then you should take shelter in the holy name and beg the holy name and get help from the mercy of the holy name. But, then comes a but. One should not justify himself, however, by arguing. The Padma Purana declares that the holy name alone is sufficient to deliver an offender. So not that, okay, we heard in the seminar of Krishna Premarupa, if I offend someone, I just chant Hare Krishna, that will be okay. No. This is in very extreme cases, and we should not have that mentality of. So I'll take shelter of this supreme means of purification. What is the need? So we should not think like, what is the need of humbling myself by offering repeated respects and service to the Vaishnava I've offended? I'd rather just chant Hare Krishna. No. This type of mentality makes one guilty of further aparats. So that's an important thing. No? The first remedy is always to ask forgiveness from the Vaishnava. Only if that's not possible, then we may take shelter in the holy name to nullify that offense. And then another thing is, nor should one think that offenses of sadhu ninda discriminates between types of Vaishnavas. So sometimes we think, well, I didn't offend a great personality. He's anyway, he's not such a big devotee. So my offense is not so bad. But that's not, Shastra is not discriminating like that. In Uddhava Gita, Krishna says, "O Uddhava, a saintly person is merciful and never injures others. Even if others are aggressive, he is tolerant and forgiving toward all living entities. His strength and meaning in life come from the truth itself. He is free from all envy and jealousy, and his mind is equal in material happiness and distress. Thus, he dedicates his time to work for the welfare of others. So that's the mentality of a sadhu. But a person cannot minimize his offenses by pointing out some defect in a devotee. So sometimes we think, well, I offended the Vaishnava, but then I say, but he also did this, he did that, he did this, and he's a nonsense, he doesn't follow, and that's why I offended him, and that's why my offense is not so heavy. No, we should not argue like that. Still, the offender should fall at the devotee's feet and seek ways of pleasing him to purify himself. Though the Vaishnava may forgive offenses, the dust of his feet does not tolerate offenses and delivers the fruits of the offense to the guilty person. So the point is, sometimes we may, that's the point before, like Krishna said in Uddhava Gita, that Vaishnavas are very forgiving, very tolerant. But we should not take advantage of that, thinking, okay, I offended the Vaishnava, anyway, he will anyway forgive me. Because even if the Vaishnava may forgive me, but Krishna might not forgive. No, if Krishna sees that we don't take it seriously, if we not really, learn our lesson, and if that Vaishnava is not really also forgiving, like pleased, he may say, okay, I forgive, but inside he's still not happy. So we have to be very careful of that. So these are some of the warnings that Srila Vishnavacharya Thakur gives. And the third namaparat, one should consider the third aparat, the guru aviyagya, also that disrespect the guru in the same way as Vaishnava aparat. Of course, that goes kind of together. If one disobeys the order of the spiritual master, that's also another form of Vaishnava aparat in a way. Like that. Any questions to this point so far? Yes, that's...
Prabhu writes, one should not give up one's sense of discrimination just to be friendly. So where do you draw the line between showing up faults and avoiding offense?
Okay, very good question. We have to discriminate between correcting someone and offending someone, blaspheming someone. And that has a lot to do with Vaishnava etiquette, Vaishnava culture. First of all, because if someone in a position of authority is correcting someone and pointing out faults, then that's their service, their seva. And they have a right to do that. But before we start to correct or point out faults of others, we have to ask ourselves, do I have the authority to do that? Am I a temple president, temple commander, or am I a guru or a teacher? Like a teacher, he has to chastise his students. A parent, they point out the fault of the children, and a guru will point out the fault of the disciples. But if I'm just a simple devotee, what is my adhikar or my position to correct and point out faults? Mostly we don't have any right to do that. And if we want to point out fault, then we can also ask for permission. Mataji, may I give you a feedback? And if you say yes, then then just come with a hammer. But there is some permission to give a feedback. But if I just go there and start to chastise you, that's not. So that's one thing on the side of who has a right to point out fault. And then comes also the motivation. Because a teacher or one in position, he usually will point out faults with the motivation to uplift the person. Like out of compassion, for pointing out the fault to uplift the person. And that's proper. That's service. But if I'm not in a position to correct, and if my motivation is to push the person down because I'm envious or because I just don't like the person and want to pull him down, then that's, of course, then it becomes an aparat, it becomes a bless, like it's not proper then. So I think that has a lot to do with Vaishnava etiquette, which position someone has, and then also the motivation. Why do we correct someone? Does it make sense? Or
Yes, thank you.
yeah. But yeah, it's a very important question that comes up when we talk about this. Yeah. Since you're a senior devotee, you can. But of course, with the proper motivation. But that anyway, you have a compassionate heart. That's there. And of course, it is the juniors, a disciple. That means discipline. They should be willing to receive corrections. They should be willing to accept chastisement. That's the proper mentality for those who serve under the seniors. But they also can feel if someone is chastising from the space of compassion or from a bad place. That, of course, can be felt. And then we also need to see how much can we tolerate. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for this session. I'm sorry, first of all, I'm sitting on chair wherein I need to sit down because from all the aspects I'm very junior to you, but I've somehow developed little back pain and it makes me very uncomfortable to sit down. I have the
same problem, so I usually sit on chairs.
I'm really sorry for this. So Prabhuji, my question was, I'm not glorifying myself, but it's been around from childhood. I'm in ISKCON movement by mercy of my parents and all the devotees. But somehow there is this comparison hitting my brain all the time, because when I see few senior devotees, like 2 senior devotees, if I have seen someone very closely, and then I feel, oh, but this devotee has set these standards in front of me, and there is another devotee who is also senior, but he is doing like this. So how to come out of this comparison? Because I feel doing that also will someday do some offense by my actions, because whatever is in mind will come in my action. Yes. So first is that, to take the precautions. And the second is, if I know a certain devotee who is qualified, that's why he got initiation and all, but I know at the other coin of the sign, that the side of the coin, that he is not following what his guru's instruction is, or he is not doing which is beneficial for all. But at the same time, as you mentioned, that I am not in a position who can correct him, and I am also not in a position who can give him a feedback. So I am trying myself that I shouldn't get affected by his actions. So I am keeping myself away. So is that the right way to stop committing any offense towards him, or just ignore and move on, or what do I do? These are the 2 questions.
2 questions.
Thank you.
I mean, the last question. If you see that some seniors do something which is not proper and it's actually harmful either for themselves or for others, you might consider to report to some other senior devotee. And you can do that in a very, not in a nasty way, and not making a Facebook or Instagram post, but humbly going to your authority. Dear temple president, I'm a little confused. I understood that senior devotees should behave like this, but I have observed like that. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe there is a reason, but can you please help me? No? In that humble way, you can inquire. That's one thing. But when it comes to the mentality of seeing things and maybe criticizing, if you want to find fault, try to find fault in yourself first. Mainly, no? Like that's the general advice. rather than always trying to see the fault with others. Because, what is the benefit of seeing fault in others? Not so much. But if you find fault in yourself, great benefit, because then you can try to improve. Because you might not be able to improve the other devotee, but when it comes to yourself, you can improve yourself. So therefore, or they say, if you, with one finger you point to someone else, 3 fingers point to you. So, and also things we get annoyed with others, usually is often also a mirror that reflects our own anarthas and weaknesses. No? If I become super annoyed because a person is always doing like that, most probably I have also something like this is in my own heart. So then it's usually better to try to turn towards yourself and fixing that. Yeah?
Now, like when I was reading in Chaitanya Charitamrita as well, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, para upakar later comes, first you become successful. So I know that this theory is there, but I please request you to please give some practical how can I implement, because theory I know, okay, this is I have to do, this is I have to do, this is I have to do, but when it comes to implementation, I fail.
Well, I mean, that's the question, how to avoid finding faults, how to avoid committing offenses. In principle, it's quite easy. We have to, if we can try to do this exercise in our own minds to constantly appreciate the devotees. If you try to see the good in the others, then you will less see the mistakes, because you develop so much appreciation. Then even if there's some mistake, it's not so relevant. But if you already don't show much interest in a person, you see only the fault, then it becomes a big thing, But if you, in principle, develop the mentality of trying to see good and trying to respect others, that's why this culture of respect, the whole Vaishnava culture is a culture of respect. All this etiquette and culture is always directed towards respecting each other, and that helps us to have the proper mindset. So you can make an experiment. You say, okay, for the next 1 week, I will not think anything bad about anyone, and I will constantly. You can maybe make a diary and write down what you appreciate about this and that devotee, something like that. Can help, can be good. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, usually that topic brings up many. Yes, sure, yeah, sure. If you have some, if someone else has some other.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was very helpful to things which come to my mind, that I found some fault in someone, I immediately try to find good things. So because it's really hard to avoid nothing badly. It's mission impossible sometimes, especially in certain environment. But if we are training to find good, as soon as we can, we can balance and be more neutral. And also what was helpful for me in this regard, that if I try to find the fault, so if I am annoyed with someone's mentality, I try to find in myself what you have said. But also I try to revoke when I was in this situation. What was my motivation? What was my understanding why I behaved like that? And by this compassion to myself, I can be more compassionate to the other.
Well, yeah.
So by this I can bridge somehow, not perfectly, but at least some compassion is awakened, and a little bit better the situation.
Thank you. Yeah, beautiful point. Yeah. So not only respect, but also this compassion that we hopefully have for ourselves, and then we can also have compassion for others, because who is perfect? We are all Hare Krishna, we all have our shortcomings, and as we are grateful if people forgive us and are a little bit tolerant with us. So then hopefully we are also in turn compassionate and tolerant with others. Yeah, beautiful point. Thank you. So let's move to the next point, which is to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. If we are familiar with that offense that one should avoid. Srila Vishnu Thakur describes it. He makes the point that Ishvara Chaitanya is of two types. One is touched at all by Maya, and the other for the Lord's pastimes accepts the touch of Maya. So Ishvara Chaitanya means the Supreme Lord. There's two kinds of Supreme Lords. The first type of Ishvara is called by such names as Narayan and Hari. That's Vishnu. Lord Hari is indeed the Supreme Personality of Godhead, transcendental to the material nature and untouched by material modes. The second type of Ishvara is called by such names as Shiva. And that personality, that Ishvara, is touched by the modes in a way that he, and we know that when Vishnu is glancing over the material nature, then by that glance Vishnu, turns into Shiva. Because Vishnu is always transcendental, he's never touched by matter. But when Vishnu touches matter, then that becomes Shiva. And then Brahma Samhita is quoted that yogurt is a transformation of milk, but is neither the same as nor different from milk. Its cause. And similarly, Shiva is also a transformation of Vishnu. When Vishnu comes in touch with matter, then that's Shiva. So in this way, Srila Vishnu Thakur describes the difference between Shiva and Vishnu, and then also points out that Brahma sometimes is addressed as Ishvara, but we understand that Brahma is usually a jiva, which is invested by the Lord's power. Sometimes, if there is not a qualified jiva, then the Lord himself may take the role of Brahma, but usually it's a jiva. And that's why both Brahma and Shiva cannot be compared to Vishnu, because Vishnu has a unique position. So that we know that, but that's also discussed. And then the last one is blasphemy in the Vedic literatures. That one should be careful not to blaspheme scriptures. And that refers to, because the Vedas there's a very vast ocean of Shastra, and sometimes as devotees we kind of, we are, maybe criticize, this is karma kanda, this jnana kanda, we are only into bhakti. But then we have to understand that actually these scriptures are also manifest by the Lord, and they're also a form of compassion by the Lord to attract the jivas to the Vedas and then gradually elevate them. So these are the different apparats. Then the anarthas can arise from bhakti. We discussed it in the previous session that if one is a devotee, then by the power one develops, one can also develop pride of his achievements in bhakti, and that can bring up anarthas from this. So now, and as I said in the beginning, it's a little technical today, but it's also interesting. So each of the four types of anarthas, those coming from pious, impious, from apparat and from bhakti, have 5 grades of anartha Nivriti, have 5 grades of nullification. Like, okay, the heart is invested with all these different anarthas, then we practice bhakti, and then slowly they get nullified, they get removed from the heart. But it's not that, okay, just with a little chanting, they're all removed altogether, but it's step by step, and it's described 5 grades of removing of the anartha. So the first one is limited or partial, eka, desha, vrattini, then pervasive, almost complete, complete, and absolute. And then I've done here a little overview. So we have the you have on the left side you see the different stages. Then on the top you see anarthas from sin, from aparat, and from bhakti. And on a stage of bhajana kriya, these anarthas are almost completely removed, or partial and partial. And then nishta, complete, pervasive, complete. And the interesting point is, at the platform of bhava, you see the anarthas get less, but there's still some, and it's quite amazing, because if you think of bhava, it's a very, very high stage. Basically, love of God is already awakened in your heart, but there's still some remnants of anarthas are still there in the heart. And then even at the platform of prema, although it says the anarthas are completely removed at the platform of prema, which you would expect, if someone has prema, all the anarthas should be removed, right? But then it says here, actually, when one has a darshan of Krishna's lotus feet, then absolutely removed. So someone may be on the platform of bhava or even prema, but there's still some, and from which kind of anarthas? Anarthas coming from aparat. And that's why Vaishnava aparat is so a serious thing. Because if you anarthas from sin, or because you're prideful or you're lusty, these anarthas can be removed easily. Relatively easily. But the anarthas that are there in the heart caused by aparat, they linger there so long, even up to the stage of bhava and prema. And an example is given, like if you have a little box and you put camphor inside, and even if you take the camphor out, how will the box smell? Camphor. The camphor is out, but it's still, the smell is still there. So similarly, the heart might be purified. You have gone through all the Anartha Nivriti, all different stages, and you attain the stage of bhava and prema, but there's still some smell of parat, of Vaishnava parat smell is still there. And only one who has the direct darshan of the Lord fully removed everything. So it's quite, I find it quite interesting. Now, then Srila Vishnava Chakravarti goes in a dialogue about this topic. He says, some may have doubts whether this is true. Because in the scripture we find descriptions of personalities who had the darshan of the Lord, but then afterwards did some nonsense. Can you think of some examples? Dhruva, who become very angry. Or Vishnava Chakravarti gives the example of Chitraketu and the gatekeepers, Jai and Vijay. So what happened with Chitraketu? Chitraketu, he already attained the lotus feet of the Lord. We know that he had a very dramatic experience as father with his son, who at first he didn't have a son, and then finally he got one, and then he died because the queens were envious. And then by the mercy of Narada, Angira Muni, the dead son, came back to life and spoke. So after that, he dedicated himself to self-realization, and he attained the darshan of Vishnu. And according to what we heard, if one has attained the darshan of Vishnu, then there's an achievement and anarthas are removed. But then later on, he offends Shiva and Parvati, right? So he criticizes them. So, this is an anartha, finding faults. We just spoke about it. So then Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, in the case of Chitraketu, who had already attained the lotus feet of the Lord, his accidental maha-aparat to Shiva was apparent, not real, for there was no ill effect from his mistake. Both as an associate of the Lord and assuming the form of the demon Vritrasura, his wealth of prema was still evident. It's interesting. Huh? His wealth of prema was still there. No, it was a pastime. It was the Lord's desire. It's the Lord's will. It's not that he actually committed an offense. No, and also Shiva, he was not touched. It was Parvati who kind of became angry. What did he do to my husband? Like that. You wanted to comment, Prabhu?
Chitraketu Maharaj and Lord Shiva were best of the friends actually. I forget the name of the Acharya where he mentions this. And he says that Lord Shiva, our Chitraketu Maharaj, took a friendly dig at his friend. That, I mean, Lord Shiva is giving Bhagavatam class to the Vairagis.
Right.
And his wife is sitting on his lap. And all the Angira Muni, Narad Muni, and all the great rishis were sitting in front of Lord Shiva. And there was no need for Lord Shiva to make Parvati sit on his lap. So, Chitraketu Maharaj understanding the glories of Lord Shiva. But if your best friend is doing such an act, what will you do? Will you tease him? And it was a family gathering. I mean, Chitraketu, even Narad Muni was sitting in front of the Lord Shiva.
And nobody objected, right?
Nobody objected.
Right.
So
that's an interesting point.
Nobody objected. So Chitraketu Maharaj took a friendly dig at Lord Shiva out of joking.
Yes.
Oh, look at my dear friends. He's giving a Bhagavatam class.
Look at this funny situation, look at this funny situation.
So, but Parvati, unaware of the friendship of Chitraketu Maharaj and Lord Shiva, she took it offensively. And she called Chitraketu Maharaj down from the plane and she chastised him and she cursed. And Chitraketu Maharaj did not react to her. Although our Acharya is saying that Chitraketu Maharaj also was powerful enough.
He could have counter-cursed.
To counter-curse her or nullify that curse and send her down to earth. But he did not do that. He just tolerated it. He took this as just Parikshit Maharaj took as Krishna's hand. So he took this as the will of the Lord, as you are saying.
Yes. And then Lord Shiva actually is commenting, just see the beauty of the Vaishnava.
Yes.
Because Parvati is known as very beautiful.
Yes.
She is very, very beautiful. But then the beauty of the tolerance of the Vaishnava was even more beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, powerful point. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, very beautiful episode of the Bhagavatam. And so this is just to prove that there was no aparad involved. And then the second example is given with Chai and Vijay. It seems that they'd made an offense, but actually it was a personal desire stimulated by prema. They said, it's quoting, "O Lord, O Narayan, you are eager to enjoy the pleasure of fighting, but outside of yourself, everyone else is too weak to oppose you. Though we are strong, we are not inimical to you. Somehow or other, make us inimical to you and relish the happiness of fighting. We can't bear to see any lack whatever in your perfection. Diminishing your affection for your devotees, please fulfill the prayer of your faithful servants." So basically, Jai and Vijay, they understood the desire of the Lord, that he wants to fight, and in their prema, in their love, they prayed, please make an arrangement that we become your enemy. And then, the whole pastime took place with the four Kumaras.
Where is this quote?
The quote, it's spoken by the Jai and Vijay, and it's spoken to Lord Narayan, offering prayers that, you please make this arrangement. We like to serve you. It's quoted by Srila Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur himself in the Madhurya Kadambini, and that's one of the the amazing contribution of Srila Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur, that he often reveals the deeper meaning of things, like explaining the minds of the Lord and his devotees, and then he enters into a conversation. and explains what is the mood. Like in Bhagavad Gita, he gives commentaries explaining what actually Arjuna is thinking, and in between the shlokas he gives extra information how these shlokas are connected by that. So that's Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur. So okay, we just have a few more points to cover in this chapter. So another point that Srila Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur brings up is that one may object that these stages of Anartha Nivritti not apply to devotees. How is it that it takes so much time for a devotee to get purified? Now, we heard that some of the Anarthas, they may be there even on higher stages. But how is it possible? Because we see in Shastra that the holy name is powerful. So that's a question. Why is the holy name not able to actually just remove the Anarthas immediately? There is a quotation from Sridhar Swami. As the rising sun destroys all the darkness of the world as deep as the ocean, so one utterance of the holy name destroys all sins. All glories to the holy name who bestows such auspiciousness on the whole universe. So if one chanting of the holy name can destroy all the sins, so then why do we have such a struggle with these anarthas? And then more shlokas are quoted. By hearing your holy name, once only, even a chandala can obtain liberation. So this is all true, but the holy name, being unhappy with offenses made against it, does not manifest its full power in the offender. Yes, the holy name is as powerful as described in Shastra. But if we are not chanting properly and we commit aparad to the holy name, then the holy name is not manifesting fully. That's not the weakness of the holy name, but that is our weakness. It's our not properly doing the process. And then another point is, some may argue that I have never made an aparad, so why is it that I'm not getting the full mercy of the holy name? Someone may argue. I'm an innocent person, I have not done any offenses, not that I know, so how is it that I don't get the mercy of the holy name? And what is the answer? Maybe he didn't make aparad recently. He may have done them in past, or even in past lives. No? Doing but one can infer the existence of parads by their effect. The effect is that a person will not manifest any symptoms of prema while doing nam kirtan. So if you say, I'm innocent, I have not done a parad, well, if while chanting you don't experience love, that means you are an aparadi. Otherwise, you would experience, because the power of the holy name is there to make you cry. And what is the Bhagavatam saying in this connection? One's heart is certainly steel-framed if, when chanting the holy name, there is no change in the heart, tears in the eyes, or standing of hairs on the body. No? If we are not feeling, if you're not having tears, if you're not feeling these emotions towards Krishna, while chanting his name, he's non-different from that name, and we don't feel anything, then according to the Bhagavatam, we have a steel-framed heart. That's the sad news. Anyhow, of course, by following the process, then hopefully our heart becomes softer. It says, as soft as butter, because Krishna is Makanchor. He likes to steal the soft heart. And another indication for having an offensive mentality, or not committing still offenses, is that we don't have taste. As during a high fever, losing all taste for food, or sometimes we don't, corona some of you may experience, I experienced. I know, you just can't taste food anymore. It's, it's horrible. Like they cook a nice feast. There is, like this morning, the halva was really good, isn't it? Like I think it was hazelnut halva, really good taste. But if you're sick, then everyone else, such a good halva, and you have the same halva, and it's just nothing, no taste. It's very. So a person finds it impossible to eat. So a person who makes serious apparats loses scope for hearing, chanting, and other devotional service. Now we may chant, and we may have some taste in chanting and hearing, but if we are not careful, if we commit some Vaishnava apparat, then we may lose. And then we think, this Krishna consciousness, this Hare Krishna, Hare Rama doesn't work for me, I leave. But actually it's not that you leave. Krishna, Nrsimhadev just removed you. Because you have committed offense, and because of the offense, you don't have a taste anymore, and that's why you go. That's usually how it works. So therefore, one has to be very careful. So if the fever lessens with time, some taste for food develops. And similarly, when one, takes the holy name and sincerely absorbs in devotional service, then again one can develop taste. And then Vishnu Thakur again quotes the shloka that we had heard in the beginning, that how in the beginning there must be faith, and there is sadhusanga, bhajana, kriya, anartha, nivriti, and so on. But sometimes we are also questioning, but why does it take so long? Someone might be free from the tendency to commit offenses. Someone may be practice very sincerely, but still we feel that the holy name is not giving us what we deserve. And what is the answer? As a fruit tree bears fruit only in the proper season, the holy name, though pleased with an offense-less person, reveals its mercy to him only in due time. And I found this a very beautiful analogy, and something that I often remember from this study of Madhurya Kadambini. It's a very nice example, like you can't go out in January when the tree is full of snow and expect the fruit. It's not the season. You have to wait, and then spring and summer, when the time is for harvesting, then there will be nice fruits. And there is nothing you can do to force that. That's just how it. There's a natural how would you say? A natural development. So similarly, our spiritual progress, even if we do everything properly and perfect, it might not be the time yet that you get all the realizations that you are looking for. And then sometimes that's called the dark night of the soul, or what is it called? Where actually we are in the process and we're doing nicely. It's not that we are a great offender, but it's, Krishna is just testing, and it's not the time yet. But if we continue, at some point for sure, then the Lord will bestow His mercy upon us, and then all of a sudden also we get deep realizations and will progress on the path of devotion. And then at some point we reach a stage which is called Nishtha, and then everything will become more easy. And that's what we're talking about tomorrow. So basically until now it was going the hill upwards. It was very difficult. So from tomorrow on it will be all just Haribol. We will speak about the higher levels, which we hopefully will be able to reach in this lifetime. Hare Krishna. So time is there. Is there any questions, comments at the end?
Just on one of the last points about sometimes someone may leave and they may say it's for this or this, but maybe they made offenses, so they lose their taste and naturally go. And sometimes, of course, living in a temple, one sees maybe some, whatever devotees do something and then they go. But of course, when we apply that to ourselves and we think, oh my goodness, like, well, I did something and there's no taste, should I go, should I stay? Or, it's like, at that point, is it that at the point when the offense is too big or something is too heavy, then it's lost? Is it like a comparative thing? So a smaller offense will have a smaller reaction, or, and if you do something major, then it's all gone, or it's hard to know. Also, in regards to the dark night of the soul, or what people call about it, when you're found in that position, how to be, because the very thing that you would want to do, when I've spoken, is to leave, but it's like a catch-22. It's almost like the worst possible thing you could do in one sense too, right?
Yeah.
So trying to get a way through to help others when they come and approach one in this method, because obviously at that point it doesn't help them to say, well, because of your past offenses or your current,
right.
One cannot even, it's like.
Yeah, thank you. Sometimes we discuss philosophy and then we take that same philosophy one-to-one and just throw it at someone's face. That's not always the best way to take care of devotees. It's important for us to understand and learn from it, but then in a certain situation, a certain devotee might need some empathy, some compassion, and a different kind of. So your question is, how do we help, how can we support the devotee who maybe goes through such situations?
We're really at the last point,
yeah.
So to say, because.
Yeah, I mean, what can you do? If someone is really mental, it becomes difficult. We can try to offer our friendship, because often one reason devotees also leave, maybe not only because of some apparat, because they're disappointed with devotees. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, actually. Yeah. And sometimes we hear devotees leave ISKCON and they join another spiritual movement, in which they find more in a personal relationship, or people are more loving and more caring than in our movement, So, yeah, like try to offer our time and offer to listen to them and offer our friendship to them. Most probably is what they need most. Because at this point, I mean, of course, philosophy is also good, but sometimes it's not what they need. Because intellectually they all understand everything, but they maybe need something more on an emotional level, on a more human level. I don't know, anyone else likes to comment on this question? The husband likes to.
Husband.
Likes to. Okay, you can discuss later. No, but thank you.
No, I was just thinking, because my question is there different stages of apparat? I mean, surely, there's different, do I do consciously? Do I do apparats consciously? Do I do unconsciously? And is the Lord, in my experience, or I would say, my observation, I would say, the Lord sees the tendency or the intention
mentality that we have in
the heart. So He's willing to forgive someone, and someone who consciously he take the taste away. Let's put punishment is a hard word, but remove the taste, what we experience.
Yeah, I would only agree with you. I would agree with you that obviously there, and then we hear it also in the description we discussed today. Also, it has a lot to do with what is our motivation, our mentality, and that certainly is taken in consideration.
And can it be also that we end up in a situation or in a sangha where we have a certain atmosphere of apparat of apparat. You know. So when we kind of it's okay in some sanghas. It's okay to speak a little bit like whatever, or of course we have to point out and we say the truth, and so and you see this people, they gather together and they're building a sangha.
Yes.
And then when somebody want to remove himself or develops himself out of this sangha of some flavor of anartha, of apparatus, then he reaches a different level of sangha. You know what I mean? And how to help, how to purify such a sangha. I guess maybe by the best oneself has to.
Yeah, and it's a very good question, because we all experience that in some circles of devotees who maybe have been disappointed with the institution, with leaders, with devotees, and they kind of nourish that kata of finding fault with others, criticizing. And if you associate in such circles, then naturally you also pick up maybe that mood. And in the Bhagavatam we find this description, how to deal if you hear blasphemy. What should you do? Huh? Yeah, there's different instructions. Jump in the Ganges. If you're able to defeat them, you should defeat them philosophically, or leaving the place, or committing suicide, or cutting out the tongue of the offender. I mean, there's, and of course, Prabhupada explains, and that obviously in the age of Kali, we are not, it's not meant to be applied. We are not able to cut out the tongue. We are not able to maybe take our lives. That's not recommended. But what we can do is we leave the place. Because often to argue with these people or defeat them also philosophically, or if you're strong enough, you might try that. But mostly leave that place, leave that sangha. Of course, your question is how to elevate them or how to uplift. Yeah, that's a good point. Then, by trying to maybe bring more a constructive discussion. Highlight that, okay, these people make these mistakes and you criticize them, but maybe there's things they also did good, or you can try to find, okay, but what can we do now? What can we do to improve the situation? What would be proactive means to improve the situation? It's just trying to direct the conversation in something which is more constructive. Because usually these kind of circles then just, it's not uplifting. Also you can feel in the heart, the mood. Like if Vaishnavas come together and glorify each other, like a Vyasa Puja ceremony, or if someone left the body and then you come together for a Shraddha ceremony. We had just last week, we had this gathering. Prabhupada disciple, Chandrapati Prabhu from Switzerland, he left his body. And in the temple we came together, we glorified. It was so beautiful. Like the atmosphere which is created, everyone expresses how wonderful that devotee was. And then, this appreciation fills the room and you feel like, wow. And you feel that Krishna is also pleased by that. But in these kind of circles, it's just the opposite. It pulls you down. So, yeah, it's very difficult to change that. But, yeah, can somehow bring some more constructive element. I don't know if someone else likes to comment on this, or yeah.
I've seen some devotees practicing the method of leaving the room, and it practically works, because that other person was surprised. Oh, what happened? He was just now taking prasad and he took his plate and left. So that devotee, they just get it.
It's interesting. Yeah, it can also be it gives a sign that you guys cross the border. No, I'm not joining such a discussion. Yeah.
But like it is the energy of so dense of that conversation, like you said, you feel it. It's just too gross that it's kind of too late to correct that person or to tell him, oh, you should not speak like this, or try to give him a lecture. He's already like too late to hear anything.
He's already tasting the rasa of sadhu ninda and aparat. Well, there's a certain juice in it. Why? Because the ego, it's all about, feeling, if you criticize others, then you can feel better yourself.
I think it's maybe mentioned in Madhurya Kadambin or somewhere else. Nindanam dosha kirtanam. They do kirtan about the doshas of others.
Yes, exactly.
I don't know if it's the Madhurya Kadambini or from Jiva Goswami.
There is of course, it's a very abominable and material form of taste, but some people find taste in that. But if you, on the other side, as we just mentioned, if you glorify the Vaishnavas, and I feel that feeling of appreciation, that's so much more beautiful and nourishing to the heart, and very pleasing to the Lord, which brings all kind of blessings. It's just the opposite. Okay, Gopi Gita, and the last comment, and then our question.
It was just to add that to that on a practical experience, it makes a difference when you're in an environment and maybe it's sort of bringing internally the worst out, to maybe leave that situation, because before the offense really forms, to leave stops, like how you were saying this, you maybe see another senior, to take that respectful distance, to understand that we don't know maybe the full part of the situation, what's going on, to leave that situation. And the second part, to pray, like if there is something that needs to change here, please, Lord, make it happen. And if not, also, pacify any thoughts that come, because it's sort of destructive, and these thoughts that pull one down are things that can just take one away from one's own path. The fact is that most of us are living on this stage of offenses, right? So if the person is not willing to understand that, we take a distance, but on what, as you mentioned before, we empower ourselves to say, but what is it about me that I can change? And it is with the consciousness, and also this part about taking shelter in the holy name. There's also a Prabhupada, when it's failing, sit down in a place and chant Hare Krishna. I mean, I've practically did that at some points, and it really does help. But obviously, it may not help in that situation, but just to understand in oneself, the respectful distance helped quite a lot in many situations, I found.
Yeah, because thank you for the comment. You can get contaminated by some of this critic. Like you may have a good impression of a person, and you hear something which might not be even true, and that contaminates, and then also that changes your relationship to that person. All right, so this was the a bit more heavy, offensive, not a heavy topic of Anartha, Nivriti and offenses and so on. So as I mentioned, tomorrow will be more light, the topic, and hopefully inspiring to see what is awaiting us on the higher levels. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Grantaraj Shri Madhurya Kadambini ki jai, Shri Vishnu Chakra Thakur ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnava.